Have you ever wondered if the numbers that seem to follow you on clocks, license plates, or even your coffee receipts are more than mere coincidences? Across cultures and philosophies, numbers are believed to carry profound messages from the universe, offering guidance, clarity, and purpose. But here's the question. What are the 6 most important numbers in your life? Could uncovering them unlock unexpected opportunities, empower you to make life-changing decisions, and help you understand yourself on a deeper level? This isn't just superstition. It's about how the universe communicates through subtle signs. For Sagittarius, the passionate and freedom-seeking archer, this message holds a special resonance. These numbers may act as your compass, guiding you toward growth, adventure, and transformation. Imagine, numbers are more than symbols. They're forms of energy, encoded with insights meant to illuminate your path. Mystics have long claimed every number is a key to the universe's hidden blueprint. Today, we'll explore how these small but powerful signs can transform uncertainty into clarity and help you align with your true potential. Let's begin this journey to uncover your numbers, the messages that may already be waiting for you. This isn't just about understanding the universe, it's about understanding yourself. Are you ready? Have you ever noticed certain numbers appearing in your life repeatedly, almost as if they're trying to catch your attention? Imagine this. You glance at your phone and see 1111. Later, you find your receipt total is 333. And on your way home, you spot a license plate reading 88. These aren't coincidences. They're whispers from the universe, subtle nudges guiding you toward clarity and purpose. Numbers are more than mathematical symbols. They're energetic markers with unique vibrations. In numerology, they reflect your soul's journey and life lessons. In feng shui, they harmonize your environment's energy. Ancient Buddhist teachings see numbers as mirrors of enlightenment and balance. For Sagittarius, the ever-curious seeker, these patterns are an invitation to embrace the rhythms of life and trust the timing of your journey. But here's the beauty. These signs are universal, transcending zodiac signs and belief systems. Anyone willing to notice them can unlock their hidden guidance. Take this example. You're feeling uncertain about a decision when suddenly you start noticing 555 everywhere, on phone numbers, street signs, and even the time on your watch. This could be the universe encouraging you to embrace change and trust the process of transformation. Or imagine encountering 88 repeatedly during a financial discussion. This might signal abundance and prosperity on the horizon. These numbers aren't random. They carry vibrational power, mirroring your emotional state, circumstances, and opportunities. They're intentional signals, like breadcrumbs leading you toward a more aligned and purposeful life. Understanding these signs isn't about blind faith or superstition. It's about cultivating awareness. When you start noticing these patterns, chaos transforms into clarity, and uncertainty becomes a chance for growth. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you listen, you'll discover that these signs are here to guide you. Now, let's center ourselves for the journey ahead. Take a moment to breathe deeply, close your eyes, and affirm, I am open to the signs around me. I trust the wisdom of the universe and welcome its guidance.
Number 6, the power of balance and harmony. The number 6 carries a profound energy of balance, nurturing, and responsibility. It's often connected to themes of love, home, and community. serving as a reminder that true fulfillment arises when all areas of life exist in harmony. This isn't merely a concept but an invitation to prioritize meaningful connections, care for others, and create environments that promote both personal and collective growth. In numerology, 6 is seen as the caretaker number, radiating an energy that uplifts others while emphasizing the importance of self-care. Its essence is a perfect blend of giving and receiving, echoing the idea that life thrives when we find equilibrium between ambition and compassion, self-care and service, personal growth and shared success. The number 6 reminds us that stability and progress are not mutually exclusive but deeply interconnected. In spiritual contexts, the influence of 6 extends even further. Within feng shui, it represents harmonious energy that flows through intentional spaces. Imagine a home or workspace where the arrangement fosters serenity, balance, and focus. Soft, comforting elements harmonize with grounding structures, mirroring the cosmic stability this number encourages. Similarly, in Buddhist philosophy, 6 resonates with mindfulness and compassion, advocating for the middle path, a life free from extremes yet rich in understanding and kindness. For Sagittarius, the adventurous and ambitious archer, the number 6 serves as a grounding force, while the Sagittarius spirit thrives on exploration and achievement. This number gently calls for moments of stillness and reflection. It offers a reminder that their journey of growth and discovery is strengthened by nurturing close relationships and cultivating emotional balance. The fiery energy of Sagittarius can sometimes lead to overlooking the inner world, but 6 acts as a compass, pointing them toward emotional support and harmony. This energy isn't abstract, it can shape daily life in transformative ways. For instance, focusing on nurturing relationships through meaningful conversations, shared moments, or acts of kindness creates emotional well-being and a sense of connection. Sagittarius, with their natural charisma, can deepen bonds and foster fulfilling interactions by embracing this approach. Creating harmonious spaces is another practical expression of SIXS energy. Through feng shui principles, incorporating natural elements, soft lighting, and comforting textures can turn chaotic environments into sanctuaries for focus and renewal. For Sagittarius, whose restless nature may lead to cluttered spaces, this practice offers a chance to create grounding environments that support their dynamic energy. The number 6 also calls for a commitment to self-care. Routines that nurture the body, mind, and spirit, such as journaling, meditation, or time in nature, are essential for maintaining energy and balance. For Sagittarius, this means balancing outward exploration with moments of inward reflection, creating a cycle of growth that is both expansive and centered. Finally, acts of service embody the heart of SIXS energy. Contributing to the community, whether through volunteering or mentoring, creates a ripple effect of love and harmony. These actions align with the number's message that success isn't measured solely by achievements but by the connections and care we build along the way. Reflecting on the significance of 6 reveals a timeless truth: life flourishes when guided by balance, love, and responsibility. For Sagittarius, this means embracing their natural drive while cultivating the stillness and connections that ground their energy. The number 6 offers a blueprint for living in alignment with these values. As a closing affirmation, take a moment to center yourself and repeat: I embrace balance and harmony in all areas of my life. I nurture myself and those around me, creating a foundation of love, stability, and growth. The energy of 6 is not just a guide, it's a companion on the journey toward fulfillment. Whether you're a Sagittarius or someone seeking a more balanced life, the wisdom of 6 offers a pathway to thrive through love, connection, and responsibility. Number 14, harmony in balance and freedom. The number 14 embodies a powerful duality, the art of balancing stability and freedom. It serves as a reminder that growth and exploration don't require us to abandon structure, but instead to embrace a harmonious blend of groundedness and courage. This energy invites adaptability, encouraging us to build a strong foundation that supports continual transformation and personal evolution. For Sagittarius, known for their adventurous spirit and quest for purpose, 14 resonates profoundly. It speaks to their natural curiosity and drive to explore the unknown, while gently calling them to remain anchored in their core values. This balance empowers Sagittarius to fully embrace life's vast possibilities without losing sight of what truly matters. In numerology, 14 emerges as the fusion of two distinct forces, the individuality and leadership of 1, and the stability and structure of 4. Together, they form a dynamic synergy that promotes growth while maintaining equilibrium. The number 14 reminds us that true progress comes not from extremes, but from blending flexibility with a steady foundation. This balance allows us to stay open to change while remaining firmly rooted in purpose. In Feng Shui, the energy of 14 is reflected in the way we design and interact with our spaces. A home that balances grounded, comforting features with open, inspiring elements mirrors the essence of this number. This harmony creates an environment that encourages both exploration and inner peace. From a Buddhist perspective, 14 aligns with the middle path, which emphasizes moderation and harmony in all aspects of life. These teachings highlight adaptability and resilience, qualities deeply connected to the energy of 14. By embracing this balance, we cultivate the ability to navigate life's challenges and opportunities with grace. For Sagittarius, 14 offers a compass for balancing their insatiable desire for adventure with their need for grounding. It reminds them that even as they pursue new horizons, they must stay connected to their deeper purpose. Sagittarius thrives on pushing boundaries, and the energy of 14 provides the tools to explore boldly while maintaining stability. The energy of 14 provides profound guidance for integrating stability and freedom into daily life. For Sagittarius, this might involve finding creative ways to expand their horizons while staying true to their values. Exploring new hobbies, embarking on meaningful travels, or pursuing creative endeavors can embody this energy, helping them grow without losing their foundation. Establishing routines that ground the mind and body also reflects the essence of 14. For a Sagittarius, who often thrives on spontaneity and excitement, incorporating grounding practices such as mindfulness, journaling, or spending quiet moments in nature can create a stabilizing force. These routines don't restrict their freedom, rather, they offer a base from which they can explore even further with confidence. In relationships, 14 reminds Sagittarius to nurture their connections while pursuing their personal goals. Open communication and genuine appreciation for loved ones deepen bonds and enrich their journey. By investing in these relationships, Sagittarius finds a balance that enhances their ability to explore life's possibilities. Physically, spaces designed with a mix of grounded and open elements can reflect the energy of 14. Combining warm, solid features like natural wood or soft lighting with airy, uncluttered layouts fosters an environment of balance and inspiration. Sagittarius, with their love of exploration, can use these principles to create a home or workspace that supports both their adventurous nature and their need for stability. The number 14 holds a timeless lesson. Life's most fulfilling moments often emerge when we integrate structure with exploration. For Sagittarius, this message is particularly poignant. By embracing the harmony of 14, they can transform their boldest dreams into reality while staying grounded in their true selves. A powerful affirmation for the energy of 14 is, I create balance in my life, embracing stability and freedom as complementary forces that guide my growth. The wisdom of 14 teaches us that we don't have to choose between being grounded and pursuing the unknown. Instead, we can weave them together, creating a life that is both expansive and deeply fulfilling. For Sagittarius, and for anyone ready to embrace this balance, 14 serves as an invitation to live boldly, adapt gracefully, and find harmony in every step of the journey. Number 27, Transformation and Intuition. The number 27 carries a profound energy of transformation, bridging the realms of intuition and wisdom. It serves as a reminder that life's most meaningful growth often comes from moments of introspection and the courage to embrace change. This number speaks to a journey of self-discovery, encouraging us to look within, evolve beyond our limitations, and find clarity even in the midst of uncertainty. For Sagittarius, a sign deeply connected to vision and intuition, 27 aligns naturally with their essence. It acts as a compass, guiding them through challenges and transitions with trust in their instincts and faith in the process of transformation. Sagittarius thrives when they can explore not just the outer world but also their inner depths. And 27 provides the energy to do just that. From a spiritual perspective, 27 holds universal significance across traditions. In numerology, it blends the intuitive depth of 2 with the introspective wisdom of 7, creating a powerful energy that fosters reflection, spiritual growth, and transformation. This combination encourages us to seek balance between connecting with others and exploring our inner truths. In Eastern philosophies, 27 reflects the cycles of impermanence and renewal, central themes in Buddhist teachings. It embodies the courage to let go of old patterns and the trust to embrace new possibilities. This mirrors the transformative energy of the middle way, where moderation and mindfulness create space for clarity and growth. Similarly, in Feng Shui, 27 symbolizes movement and renewal, encouraging us to declutter both our physical and mental spaces to invite fresh energy. For Sagittarius, the spiritual essence of 27 resonates deeply. Known for their adventurous and reflective nature, this number encourages them to view challenges as opportunities for growth. It reassures them that transformation is not only a process of letting go but also a journey toward alignment with their true purpose. The energy of 27 is not just philosophical, it has practical relevance in daily life. For Sagittarius, this number acts as a guide to navigate uncertainty with confidence and grace. Embracing practices like meditation or journaling can help unlock insights and foster a deeper connection to intuition. These moments of stillness offer clarity, helping Sagittarius make decisions that align with their higher vision. 27 also encourages self-awareness through meaningful conversations. For Sagittarius, engaging in deep, reflective discussions can reveal hidden truths and spark transformative realizations. These exchanges don't just nurture their intellect but also their emotional and spiritual growth. The influence of 27 extends to the environments we inhabit. Clearing clutter and designing spaces that feel peaceful and inspiring can amplify this number's transformative energy. For Sagittarius, who often finds themselves in constant motion, Creating a space that fosters reflection can serve as an anchor during times of change. The number 27 teaches us that transformation is not an event but a journey. It reminds us to trust the process of growth, even when the path ahead feels uncertain. For Sagittarius, this is an invitation to explore not only the outer world but also their inner landscape. By embracing the energy of 27, they can deepen their understanding of themselves and their purpose, turning every challenge into a stepping stone toward greater wisdom. A powerful affirmation for the energy of 27 is, I trust my intuition and embrace transformation as a path to deeper understanding and growth. The wisdom of 27 is a gift, encouraging all of us to look within, honor our intuition, and step forward with courage and clarity. For Sagittarius and anyone ready to embrace this energy, 27 offers a reminder that the greatest journeys often begin within, leading to profound transformation and renewal. Number 33, creativity and community. The number 33 exudes a vibrant energy rooted in creativity, compassion, and the power of connection. Known as a master number in numerology, it carries a heightened vibrational frequency, inspiring us to share our unique talents, nurture meaningful relationships, and build communities founded on mutual support and inspiration. It invites us to transform our creative impulses into collective actions that resonate far beyond ourselves. For Sagittarius, the energy of 33 is a natural amplifier. As a sign associated with vision and leadership, Sagittarius individuals are drawn to ideas and connections that inspire transformation. The number 33 empowers them to channel their creativity and passion into projects and relationships that leave a meaningful impact. It reminds them that their greatest achievements often lie in collaboration and their ability to ignite a sense of purpose in others. From a spiritual perspective, 33 holds profound meaning across traditions. In numerology, it is often referred to as the master teacher, symbolizing wisdom, altruism, and the potential to inspire collective growth. Its energy encourages the fusion of personal expression with a greater sense of responsibility to others. In Eastern philosophies, 33 aligns with the concepts of interconnection and shared purpose. In Buddhist teachings, it resonates with the idea of Sangha, the community of practitioners who support one another on their spiritual journeys. Similarly, in Feng Shui, 33 reflects the energy of dynamic creativity and collaboration, reminding us that harmonious spaces can nurture the flow of ideas and foster deeper relationships. For Sagittarius, 33 serves as a spiritual guide, inviting them to embrace their natural leadership qualities and use their creativity to foster connections. Sagittarius thrives when they feel their ideas are contributing to a larger vision, and the energy of 33 helps them align their personal purpose with the greater good. The influence of 33 extends into many aspects of daily life, offering guidance on how to cultivate creativity and community. For Sagittarius, this number suggests embracing opportunities to collaborate with others, whether through professional endeavors, artistic projects, or community initiatives. It inspires them to nurture their relationships, not only as a source of support but as a space for shared growth and inspiration. Expressing creativity becomes a central theme with 33. Sagittarius, with their natural curiosity and bold ideas, can explore various outlets to bring their vision to life. Whether through art, writing, mentorship, or leadership roles, they can use their talents to create ripple effects that inspire those around them. The energy of 33 also highlights the importance of creating spaces where collaboration can flourish. For Sagittarius, This might mean fostering environments where others feel valued and empowered. This could include mentoring a team, hosting gatherings that spark dialogue, or contributing to causes that align with their values. By doing so, Sagittarius not only amplifies their own creative energy but also inspires those they connect with to do the same. The number 33 serves as a powerful reminder that creativity is most fulfilling when it is shared. For Sagittarius, it's a call to embrace their role as a visionary, someone who can use their talents to bring people together and create meaningful impact. It challenges them to look beyond individual success and recognize the transformative potential of collaboration and compassion. An affirmation for the energy of 33 might be, I share my creativity with purpose, nurturing connections and inspiring growth in myself and others. The wisdom of 33 encourages all of us to see our talents as gifts to be shared. For Sagittarius, this energy resonates deeply, offering them the chance to lead with creativity, inspire through compassion, and build communities that thrive on collaboration and shared purpose. By embracing the transformative power of 33, they can turn their ideas into lasting legacies, creating a life that feels both meaningful and impactful. Number 49, Wisdom and Renewal. The number 49 radiates an energy of wisdom, reflection, and renewal. It carries a profound message. Growth begins when we pause to reflect, release the past, and create space for new opportunities. This number reminds us that life is cyclical, and with every ending comes the potential for a fresh start. It encourages us to embrace these transitions with optimism, strength, and an open heart. For Sagittarius, known for their goal-driven and adventurous nature, 49 serves as a powerful invitation to slow down and reevaluate. This number calls them to reflect on their priorities and align their actions with their higher purpose. It's not about abandoning ambition, but about ensuring that their pursuits resonate deeply with who they are and what they truly value. In numerology, 49 is a blend of the grounded energy of 4 and the transformative wisdom of 9. The number 4 symbolizes stability, structure, and the foundation needed for growth, while 9 represents the completion of cycles, wisdom gained through experience, and the embrace of renewal. Together, they create a vibration that supports introspection, letting go, and preparing for new beginnings. In Eastern traditions, 49 carries significant spiritual meaning. In Buddhism, it represents the time of reflection and transition, often associated with the cycle of 49 days, a period for introspection and spiritual growth. This aligns beautifully with the number's encouragement to pause, reflect, and prepare for renewal. Similarly, in Feng Shui, the number inspires the release of stagnant energy to invite fresh, vibrant energy into spaces, echoing its theme of transformation. For Sagittarius, this number's spiritual resonance amplifies their innate desire for meaning and alignment. It gently reminds them to balance their forward momentum with moments of introspection, trusting that reflection is a necessary step toward achieving their higher purpose. The energy of 49 provides actionable guidance for creating clarity and embracing renewal. For Sagittarius, this number encourages practices that foster self-awareness and alignment. Journaling can serve as a tool for reflection, allowing them to process experiences and clarify their goals. Meditation offers a moment of stillness to connect with their inner wisdom, while decluttering physical spaces can symbolize the release of mental and emotional burdens. Incorporating the energy of 49 into their environment can also be transformative. Sagittarius, who thrives on clarity and purpose, can benefit from creating spaces that support mindfulness and focus. Simplifying surroundings, introducing natural elements, and fostering an atmosphere of calm can help them align with their true intentions. This number also invites Sagittarius to approach transitions with grace, rather than resisting change. 49 encourages them to view it as an opportunity for growth and renewal. By embracing the cycles of life, they can move forward with confidence, knowing that every ending holds the seed of a new beginning. The number 49 teaches that reflection is not a pause in growth but an integral part of it. For Sagittarius, it's a reminder that their bold ambitions are best supported by moments of stillness and self-awareness. By embracing the energy of 49, they can align their actions with their values, release what no longer serves them, and step into their next chapter with clarity and purpose. A meaningful affirmation for the energy of 49 might be, I honor the cycles of life and embrace reflection as a path to wisdom and renewal. The wisdom of 49 invites all of us to slow down, look inward, and trust the process of transformation. For Sagittarius, this number resonates deeply, offering them the tools to integrate their drive with introspection and their aspirations with meaning. By aligning with the energy of 49, they can navigate transitions with grace, turning each challenge into an opportunity for growth and renewal. Number 68, Abundance and Leadership. The number 68 is a powerful blend of ambition and compassion, embodying the synergy of personal success and collective well-being. It reminds us that true abundance is not achieved in isolation but flourishes in an environment where others are uplifted and supported. With its grounding energy, 68 encourages determined action toward goals while fostering integrity, empathy, and meaningful connections. For Sagittarius, this number serves as both a mirror and a guide, known for their natural leadership qualities and visionary spirit. Sagittarius thrives when they embrace roles that inspire and empower those around them. 68 amplifies their ability to create impact, urging them to lead with purpose and balance their drive with compassion. It's a reminder that their success is most fulfilling when it also nurtures others, creating a ripple effect of positivity and growth. In numerology, the energy of 68 is a combination of 6 and 8, two numbers that carry complementary vibrations. The number 6 resonates with harmony, service, and nurturing, while 8 symbolizes power, ambition, and abundance. Together, they create a dynamic energy that supports both individual achievement and collective upliftment. From a spiritual perspective, 68 aligns with the principle of interdependence emphasized in Buddhist philosophy. This teaching reminds us that our individual success is interconnected with the well-being of others. Similarly, in feng shui, 68 embodies the flow of energy in environments designed to support both productivity and connection. It encourages spaces that reflect balance, combining structure and inspiration to create harmony. For Sagittarius, the spiritual essence of 68 aligns beautifully with their dual nature, the seeker of wisdom and the bold adventurer. It invites them to pursue their goals while remaining anchored in a sense of purpose and integrity. This number's energy helps Sagittarius integrate their personal ambitions with a broader vision that uplifts those around them. The energy of 68 offers a roadmap for creating a life that is abundant, purposeful, and deeply connected. For Sagittarius, this number encourages them to lead with intention, ensuring their pursuits align with their values. It inspires them to build environments, whether physical or relational, that support collaboration and growth. By fostering spaces where others can thrive, they naturally enhance their own success. This number also urges Sagittarius to embrace leadership roles with empathy, rather than focusing solely on personal milestones. 68 invites them to consider the impact of their actions on those around them. Leading with compassion doesn't dilute their ambition, it strengthens their ability to inspire and motivate others, creating an environment of shared achievement. In their personal lives, Sagittarius can channel the energy of 68 by balancing productivity with connection. They are reminded to nurture their relationships as much as their goals, knowing that true abundance is found in the harmony of both. Whether through mentoring, team projects, or meaningful conversations, they can use their influence to create positive change. The number 68 teaches that leadership is not just about reaching the top, but about bringing others along on the journey. For Sagittarius, it's an invitation to align their ambitious spirit with their compassionate heart, creating a life that is as impactful as it is fulfilling. By embracing the energy of 68, they can inspire others to thrive while achieving their own goals with integrity and purpose. A meaningful affirmation for the energy of 68 might be, I lead with purpose and compassion, creating abundance and uplifting those around me. The wisdom of 68 reminds us all that true success is built on a foundation of meaningful connections and shared achievements. For Sagittarius, this number resonates deeply, offering them the tools to lead with authenticity, foster collective growth, and build a life that is as rich in purpose as it is in prosperity. By aligning with the transformative energy of 68, they can create a legacy that inspires and empowers those they touch. The journey through these 6 numbers unveils a beautifully connected tapestry of energies designed to guide us towards self-discovery, growth, and transformation. These numbers are far from random, they are intentional signposts from the universe, aligning us with purpose, balance, and joy. Each number carries a unique vibrational energy, calling us to pause, reflect, and trust in the unfolding of life's greater plan. The nurturing harmony of 6 encourages us to focus on what truly matters, our relationships and well-being. It's a grounding force, urging us to nurture connections that matter and create emotional stability in our lives. Love and service take center stage here, offering profound fulfillment through acts of care and self-reflection. The dynamic synergy of 14 bridges stability and exploration. It reminds us that adventure and rootedness aren't opposing forces but complementary tools for growth. Sagittarius, in particular, finds this energy empowering, a call to pursue bold dreams while staying anchored in core values. The transformative energy of 27 invites us to look inward. It encourages introspection and personal evolution, asking us to release what no longer serves us. Through this number, clarity emerges, and with it, the courage to embrace change. For Sagittarius, this aligns with their natural curiosity and quest for purpose, helping them navigate life with trust in their intuition. The compassionate creativity of 33 emphasizes the power of collaboration and connection. It inspires us to share our unique talents and lift others as we rise. Sagittarius, known for their leadership and vision, finds this number amplifies their ability to transform individual achievements into collective progress, sparking inspiration in all who follow their lead. The reflective wisdom of 49 encourages renewal. It reminds us to pause and release old patterns to create space for growth. Its energy signifies the end of one chapter and the start of another, urging Sagittarius to realign with their higher purpose while trusting that every ending carries the seeds of transformation. The balanced ambition of 68 combines drive with compassion. It symbolizes success rooted in integrity and meaningful connections. This energy calls us to lead with empathy, achieving personal aspirations while uplifting those around us. Sagittarius, with their natural charisma, finds guidance in this energy to channel their ambition into purposeful leadership. Together, these 6 numbers form a roadmap to alignment and possibility. They weave a narrative of creativity meeting introspection, ambition blending with connection, and endings transforming into new beginnings. Their energies guide us to trust life's flow, embrace challenges, and find harmony in the balance of stillness and movement. For those open to their vibrations, these numbers serve as gentle guides, encouraging clarity, courage, and intentional action. They remind us to listen to the whispers of the universe, pause when needed, and move forward with purpose. Whether you're seeking joy, balance, renewal, or transformation, these 6 numbers hold the power to illuminate your path to growth and potential. Take a moment to reflect. You are exactly where you're meant to be, surrounded and guided by energies that have always been within and around you. These numbers are more than symbols, they are keys to transformation, unlocking a life of depth, authenticity, and meaning. As we close this journey through the profound energies of numbers, take a moment to reflect on the wisdom and inspiration they have revealed. Numbers are not mere abstract symbols, they are universal guides, aligning us with the flow of balance, abundance, and transformation. They remind us to trust life's rhythms, to embrace both stillness and movement, and to open ourselves to infinite possibilities. Ground yourself now with this affirmation. I open my heart to infinite possibilities and align with the universe's flow of balance and abundance. Let this intention carry you forward as you explore the unique vibrations these numbers bring into your life. When we truly listen to their messages, we unlock pathways to growth, meaningful connection, and boundless opportunities. Which number resonated most with you? Perhaps it was the harmony of 6, the expansive balance of 14, the transformative power of 27, the collaborative energy of 33, the renewal of 49, or the ambitious compassion of 68. Each number carries its own essence, a unique invitation to evolve and thrive. Share your reflections and inspire others to embark on their own paths of discovery. Together, we create a shared space filled with growth, insight, and understanding. If this journey has resonated with you, your engagement can amplify its impact. By liking this content, you share its energy with others seeking clarity and connection. Subscribing to Fortune Flow makes you part of a growing community of seekers, explorers, and creators. Every interaction contributes to a ripple effect of transformation that uplifts the collective. The universe speaks to those who listen. Your participation in this exploration isn't just a personal act, it's part of a larger movement toward growth, alignment, and discovery. Through your engagement, you amplify the energy of transformation, not only for yourself but for all who share this journey. As we conclude, remember, this is just the beginning. Numbers are not only tools for guidance, they are keys to unlocking a life of clarity, balance, and success. By understanding and aligning with their energies, you open doors to infinite possibilities and deeper connections with the universe. Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey. Your presence here reflects your openness to growth and your commitment to your own infinite potential. May your days be filled with clarity, abundance, and the courage to embrace all that lies ahead. This is only the start of what we'll uncover together. Stay tuned for more insights and empowering explorations in upcoming videos. Thank you for trusting Fortune Flow as your guide. Until next time, keep shining your light and embracing the limitless possibilities the universe holds for you. See you soon.